So we're going to start this chapter 26 lecture. We're going to read the passage and then we'll get into it. Before we do that, though, um, this is the next, in the next several lessons, we'll be studying the last week of Jesus' life and ministry. And the bulk of the Gospel of John is devoted to this brief uh, span of time. John covered about 3-ish years in 10 chapters, chapter 2 through 11. Remember, one is in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. So that was theology. But in chapters 2 to 11, he's covered about 3 years. And so then John will spend the next 9 chapters on the last week of his life. So chapters 1 and 21 aren't counted, mostly because they're completely different, or it's not. I'm not going to say disconnected, but John 1 is beautiful poetry and is theology, and then the last chapter, 21, is a story which I hope we can get to because I love that story about Jesus taking a fishing trip, or the not a fishing trip, that Jesus the disciples are having a fishing trip and then Jesus shows up after his resurrection. So anyway, he spends the next 9 chapters on the last week of Jesus's life. So let's just give a little bit of a review. Jesus had entered triumphantly into Jerusalem riding on a donkey, and the streets were echoing the shouts of Hosanna. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, and they want to make him their king. And then Christ at night during that week would go to Bethany, and probably at Mary and Martha's. You're looking at me like something's wrong. No. So at night he would probably have gone to Mary and Martha's house. We don't know that for sure, but now we come to I think Sunday. The curriculum says Monday. These Greeks coming to Jesus. And when you think Greeks, don't think from Greece. Think non-Jews. Think Gentiles. So these people who are not, they are not Jews, come to Jesus. And John pretty much skips from Sunday to Thursday. The synoptics fill in what happened between that. But John would have been familiar of those writings because his was written last. Now, I'm going to talk about timing again. Some of the timing in the curriculum is disputed at best. Remember, I told you that they believe that Jesus died on Thursday, so that puts things. And I could be wrong. Most of Christendom would be wrong, but we could be wrong. But that's why they have different days. If in your book it says the events of Monday, right? And it might be Monday in that case, but some of the others are not so true. So Jesus gets hungry. He's with his disciples, and they're traveling to Jerusalem from Bethany, and he's hungry, and he sees this fig tree, and so he goes over to it, presumably to gather its fruit for his breakfast. But when he gets there, they're only green, inedible fruit. And what John tells us is that it wasn't the time for figs. It wasn't fig harvest. So, and then Jesus, seeing no ripe figs, puts he miraculously makes the whole tree wither, and it died. And that makes Jesus like, you didn't give me figs, I'm gonna kill you. Jesus, it's like, wow, Jesus, what's wrong? You have got out on the wrong side of the bed today. So here's what's going on here, and the curriculum doesn't tell you this. Jesus is teaching his disciples something. This is an acted out parable. Most of Jesus's parables were words, right? This one was action. This one was an acted out parable. And you're familiar with that. I think you probably know or know of the story of Hosea in the Old Testament. And God comes to Hosea and says to him, go find a prostitute in the town and marry her. And so Hosea goes to the town, finds a prostitute named Gomer, takes her home, cleans her up, cares for her, loves her, and Gomer goes right back to that cesspool. And so, again, Hosea goes and gets her and cleans her up and takes her home and loves her. And that's an acted out parable. And this is an Old Testament parable, though. And what the story is saying, what the parable is saying, is that that's people with God. We go to a camp or to a service, and we get all riled up, and we're like, I'm gonna follow you, Jesus. I'm gonna follow you, Jesus. And he takes us home, and he cleans us up, and we go right back to ourselves. And so it's an acted out parable. It was an indictment against the Jewish leaders. So similarly, that was an Old Testament parable, acted out parable. This is too. And it's against the Jewish leadership, who were fruitless. They didn't have any spiritual fruit that was good. So he's not angry at the tree for not having figs out of season. He is angry that the Jewish leadership is taking people away from the truth, not giving them the truth as they were supposed to do. So, the tree had leaves, so it had all the trappings of fruitfulness and no fruit. And that was the Jewish leadership. They had all the trappings of purity and uh, 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 and joy and all those things, and they didn't live it out. They looked holy, but inside they were dead. So, so then Jesus arrived at Jerusalem, and he went straight to the temple, and where again he kicked out the merchants that were selling sheep and doves and money changers and all of that. Now, here's the thing. That cleansing is not in John. You remember early in the year we talked about a cleansing of the temple in John. This one is in the Synoptics. And here's the thing. So it is absolutely possible that Jesus cleared the temple, cleansed the temple twice. Once early in his ministry, and one late in his ministry. But there's another possibility, and I think you're going to go like, no, that can't be. That makes the Bible not inerrant. No, it doesn't. It's possible that John moved it for thematic reasons, and so it's the same one that we read earlier. Now, we as modern people, we go, well, then that's not true. Ancient people didn't have that. If the story was true, it didn't matter when that. They weren't into the details that we're into. You know, we have to have all the details and get them right for it to be true. So I don't know which is true. I don't know if there were two cleansings or if it was moved thematically in John. But it doesn't matter because it really happened either way. And then he healed a blind man, and he was blind and lame. And the crowd began to gather, and this is what happened that we've already talked about. And so they were clamoring after him on Palm Sunday. And then this incident leads us into the text for this lesson about the Greeks. Now, among those who went up to worship at the feast were some Greeks. So these came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and asked him, "Sir, we wish to see Jesus." Philip went and told Andrew, and Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus, and Jesus answered them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls to the earth and dies, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears much fruit. Whoever loves his life loses it, and whoever hates his life in this world will keep it for eternal life. If anyone serves me, he must follow me, and where I am, there will my servant be also. If anyone serves me, the Father will honor him. Now is my soul, this is Jesus talking, now is my soul troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? But for this purpose I have come to this hour. Father, glorify your name. Then sorry. I have glorified, so then a voice came from heaven, I have glorified it, and I will glorify it again. The crowd that stood there and heard it said that it had thundered. Others said, an angel has spoken to him. Jesus answered, this voice has come for your sake, not mine. Now is the judgment of this world. Now will the ruler of this world be cast out. And when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. He said this to show by what kind of death he was going to die. Crucifixion. So the crowd answered him, we have heard from the law that the Christ remains forever. How can you say that the Son of Man must be lifted up, must be killed? Who is the Son of Man? So Jesus said to them, the light is among you for a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, lest the darkness overtake you. The one who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. while you have the light, believe in the light, and you may that you may become sons of God. When Jesus had said these things, he departed and hid himself uh, from them. Though he had done many signs before them, they still did not believe in him, so that the word spoken by the prophet Isaiah might be fulfilled. Lord, who has believed what we have heard from us? Who has believed what they have heard, he heard from us? And to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? Therefore, they could not believe. For again, Isaiah said, He has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts, lest they see with their eyes and understand with their heart and turn, and I would heal them. Isaiah said these things because he saw his glory and spoke of him. Nevertheless, many even of the authorities believed in him, in Jesus. But for fear of the Pharisees, they did not confess it, so that they would not be put out of the synagogue. For they love the glory that comes from man more than the glory that comes from God. And Jesus cried out and said, Whoever believes in me believes not in me, but in him who sent me. And whoever sees me sees him who sent me. I have come into the world as light, so that whoever believes in me may remain in darkness, will not remain in darkness. If anyone hears my words and does not keep them, I do not judge him, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. The one who rejects me and does not receive my words has a judge. The word that I have spoken will judge him on the last day. For I have not spoken on my own authority, but the Father who sent me has himself given me a commandment, what to say and what to speak. And I know that his commandment is eternal. What I say, therefore, I say as the Father told me. So, we have these events of Holy Week. I'm not going to give days for it. So he casts out the money changers from the temple. He heals the blind and the lame. And that's my reminder to tell you that we're not using the curriculum's timing, but I already told you that. So. And then he condemns the fig tree. Those are ripe figs. The ones Jesus would have seen would be green. Now, among those who went up to the worship at the feast were some Greeks, non-Jews. So these came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida in Galilee, and asked him, Sir, we wish to see Jesus. Philip went and told Andrew. Andrew and Philip went and told Jesus. So these people were Gentiles, proselytes. Proselytes were people who were interested in a religion, but we can't know for sure. And then Jesus' words to the Greeks, the first thing he says is, My hour has come. And over again, this whole school year, we've heard, my hour has not yet come. My hour has not yet come. My hour has not yet come. And something about these non-Jews, something about these Greeks coming to Jesus triggers the hour. I can't say this with authority, I think, but I think it had something to do with Gentiles coming, because Jesus died for the world, not just the Jews. He did die for the Jews, but also the Gentiles, and the Jews would have been offended by that. So, these people were possibly curious about Jesus and wanted to know about him. And so they come to Philip, and Philip goes to Jesus, and so why did they come to Philip? We don't know. We don't know. Maybe Philip was the only one that was there. Maybe he was at the door. I don't know. there's so many things that we can't know about God and about even about the Bible. And one of my favorite things is that I was taught by a teacher of mine that the first thing we're going to say in heaven is, of course, because then it's going to make sense. But at this point, they couldn't have imagined who Jesus was. So, and it's telling me where he was in the temple. We don't know where he was, so I'm not going to tell you where he was because the Bible doesn't tell us where he was. They conjecture on that. So this is the first. They say that this is the first Gentile interest in Jesus. Is that correct? No. We've seen that, right? The demoniac, the Syrophoenician. We haven't studied this one, but the Syrophoenician woman, the woman that talked about even the gods, the dogs get the scraps, right? And the Roman official. So we've seen over and over again Jesus interacting with the Gentiles. So Jesus's answer. And Jesus answered them, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." Is it time to go?
Wait 1 second.
Yeah, 1 second. Wow, I'm impressed. Thank you. You too.